Shields and swords, feel the wars, fighting my blood down to the core. Warriors from medieval age, fear the reign of night brigades. Crusades into the room, moving through the temples and tombs. Scared and placed, prepare to face Professor Awesome and the minions of doom. 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 Professor Awesome and the minions of doom.
One problem with the way that we talk about literary criticism or literary analysis, I think, is that we talk about it often in very theoretical ways. And that makes it very difficult for beginning people who are just reading for the first time and have only read for pleasure or have only read, for basic information to really understand literary criticism. So one important question about literary criticism is, where does meaning in literary criticism come from? So some people have argued, well, the author intends something, and what the author's intention is what the text means. And if you misunderstand it, you've misunderstood what the author is saying. Others have said, well, no, it's not the author who determines the meaning, it's the reader. In some cases, we don't even know who the author was of something. That doesn't mean that it's meaningless. When we read it, we give it its meaning. Others have argued that the historical background or other contexts, that a work of art's relationship to other works of art, all these different things are questions about what determines what a text means. Well, in the middle of the 20th century, there was a literary critical movement that we call New Criticism. Now, it's not new anymore. It's very old. And in fact, I don't know anyone who would call themselves a new critic because it's now considered very old-fashioned, but it's still called New Criticism. And new critics argued, no, meaning does not come from outside the text at all. It only comes from inside the text. And so you should not bring in anything from the outside. You should not bring in, what did the author think, or what is my feeling about it when I read it, or how does this relate to other works of literature. Instead, you just look at the work of literature itself. And everything in the work of literature is important, and nothing outside the work of literature is important. And in order to help analyze a text in this way, they developed a technique called close reading. Now, as I mentioned today, to be honest, very few people take a strict new critical approach anymore. However, the technique of close reading is still very, very much used. And in fact, not only is it used, I would suggest that it is the backbone of every other kind of literary criticism. As soon as you begin reading, as soon as someone begins critiquing a text, if someone else points to something in the text that contradicts their critique, if they look more closely in that way, then the other person abandons or changes their argument because of this. So I want to give you an example of close reading. And the example of close reading I'm going to give you comes from, I'm going to do a close reading once over very lightly, of an ancient Egyptian poem. And this is a translation by John L. Foster. And it's called Love, How I'd Love to Slip Down to the Pond. The title is actually just the first line of it. I will paste the actual full poem below so you can see it on social media. If you've picked this up through someone else sharing it, I'm very sorry. You're just going to have to hear me listen to it. And I'll read it once through very quickly, then I'll talk about it. Love, how I'd love to slip down to the pond, bathe with you close by on the bank. Just for you, I'd wear my new Memphis swimsuit, made of sheer linen, fit for a queen. Come see how it looks in the water. Couldn't I coax you to wade in with me? The cool creeps slowly around us. Then I'd dive deep down and come up for you dripping. Let you fill your eyes with the little red fish that I'd catch. And I'd say, standing there tall in the shallows, look at my fish, love, how it lies in my hand, how my fingers caress it, slip down its sides. But then I'd say softer, eyes bright with your seeing, a gift, love, no words. Come closer and look. It's all me. Okay, so that's a very beautiful and very ancient poem. And often when I ask students what they think of it, they think, well, this is a very bold girl. This is a very bold and seductive woman who's trying to seduce some young man. And they usually pretty quickly focus on the fish and the fish that she catches and holds and caresses, and they see that, I think, what is very clear sexual imagery, and they want to talk about that a lot. Okay? And it's not that those readings are wrong. Those readings are fine. But let's do a closer reading of the text now. Okay? Let's look again. So let's just start with the first line. Love, how I'd love to slip down to the pond. Okay, it's interesting. We have the word love only a few times in here. The first time she's talking about her beloved, and then we have this idea of loving this in the translation here. But I think what students often miss is it doesn't say, love, I will slip down to the pond. It says, how I'd love to. And if you look throughout the entire poem, she says, I would do this, I'd do this, I'd do that. In other words, she's not doing the thing that she says she wants to do. She's imagining doing it. This is not a bold and aggressive woman. This is someone who is maybe more timid and would love to be, aggressive toward him, would love to try to seduce him. But because of social propriety or her own modesty or just embarrassment or vulnerability, she's afraid to. And so she doesn't do it. All of this is a fantasy of what she would like to do, but not what she's actually doing. And if we look even more closely at the reading, we start to see certain patterns. So, for example, she says, come talk about her swimsuit. Come see how it looks in the water. Then I come up for you dripping. Let you fill your eyes with the little red fish that I'd catch. Look at my fish, love, how it lies in my hands. Then I'd say softer, eyes bright with your seeing. A gift, love, no words. Come closer and look. It's all me. They focus on the fish, and the fish is there, and you can't pretend it's not. But over and over again, it's look, see, look at this, look, see, look. And what you realize is the problem is not just that she'd like to be seductive. The bigger problem for this young woman is that he doesn't notice her. He doesn't see her. She's imagining being seen by him. One problem very often for young men is that it makes them very vulnerable. The very acute pain of letting a woman know that they're interested in her. It's a very frightening thing because you could get rejected. You may get rejected. Women will often complain, why didn't men pick up on the signals I was giving them that I'm interested? Well, very often I think men do, but the fear that maybe I'm getting it wrong, maybe I'll be rejected, maybe my vulnerability will not be rewarded, prevents them from acting. And so for men, these kind of romantic relationships are often marked by sharp, acute pain of the moment of rejection, where she'll laugh at you or she'll reject you and you'll be embarrassed. And then, it's just hard in that way, these sharp moments of pain. But very often for women, it's not about the sharp moments. It's about slowly being crushed over time. For men, there's moments of vulnerability. For women, it's, why don't you see me? Why don't you notice me? I'm trying to get his attention. I'm giving him signals. I'm trying to let him know that I'm interested in him, but he's not responding to me. And I think in this poem, if we look at it closely, we see this kind of idea of just trying to be noticed and wishing that you could overcome either your own embarrassment or the social stigma or whatever it might be to do bold things so that he will notice you and that he will come closer and look and find out it's all you. Now, again, here we have this poem, and we could dig even deeper. I mean, this is once over very lightly into this poem. I just wanted to offer it as an example of what we mean when we say close reading. Assume that every word in the text is there for a purpose and is doing something for a purpose. You can't skip over parts that don't fit your ideas very well. You have to adjust your ideas to what is in the text. And so no matter what theoretical position you take, close reading is probably going to be the best technique you're going to use to demonstrate that your reading is correct.